So to get into Windows, all right, we're going to go and open back up our floor plan. All right, floor plan level 1. All right, we have our 2 walls here. All right. Go ahead to the Architecture tab and click on the Window tool. All right. That'll bring us into the Window tool here. All right. If you look at your type selector, all right, the type drop down, all right, you can see that, by default I only have this window type, the fixed window, loaded in. All right. But underneath the fixed window family is I actually have all of these different sizes, all right, that I can choose from. So 36, 48, 72, 24, and so on. Okay. Now you can get other windows in here, and we'll go through that process in a minute on how you can load those in. All right. But just kind of take note of these are the different window types that we have under the fixed window family. Okay. So in this case, it's the 36 by 48. Under our instance properties here, you can see you can change the sill height and the head height. Okay. If we click on type properties, okay, we can see the different types of type properties we can adjust. All right, so everything from the materials of the glass and the sash. All right, these here we can click on them. Okay, and you can go back in and again play around with the materials if you so choose to. All right, the dimensions, right, the height and the width and all of these, right? So if you're going to change the dimensions or any of these materials, again, keep in mind that these properties are inside the type properties, okay? Which means that if you change these, it's going to affect every one of the windows that are modeled of this 36 by 48 fixed window family, okay? So especially with windows and doors, because they're so much more driven on the dimensions, for example, the height and the width, all right, make sure that you duplicate, all right, make sure that you duplicate this type, especially where they're named for their size. You don't want to have this 36 inch by 48 inch window and change the height or the width of it. So if you change the width of it from 36 to something like 48 inches, so now that's 48 by 48, but it's still named 36 by 48, obviously you're going to start to get confused by it, okay? So just keep that in mind and make sure that if you're going to go into the type properties and you're going to change anything, make sure that you duplicate that type, rename it to something logical, all right, so that you remember what it is, and then make your changes, okay? Because you don't want to go and start making changes to all of the default stuff, or making changes to a bunch of families that you already have modeled in your project, and then you end up accidentally changing 100 windows that you have in your project and you don't realize it, and then it just kind of snowballs into a big mess, okay? So again, for your own sanity, just kind of keep that in mind and kind of keep that mantra going of duplicate the type, and so on, okay? But while we're in the type properties here, again, so these are the kind of type properties that you can go and adjust, okay, for your window. I'm going to leave them as is, all right, cancel out of it, okay? And so for placing your windows, right, is when you have your window selected, you'll notice that if you kind of bring your cursor out here into no man's land out here, where it's away from the wall, is you'll notice you'll get the little circle with the cross through it, right? Basically telling you, Revit telling you can't place this here, right? That's because windows, as well as doors, all right, there's also different objects that you'll place in Revit here that fall into the same category, right? But they're considered what's called a hosted element, okay? What hosted elements are objects that require some other piece to be placed into, okay? So for instance, a window, right, being a hosted element, requires a wall to be placed into. So where you have no wall out here, kind of in the open space, you get the the symbol for you can't place it there, right? But if you bring it and hover it over the wall, right, you'll see, oh look, now it shows up my window, and I can place my window in my wall, okay? And to place that window there, if you just click, okay, it'll place the window, should automatically cut out a wall there, okay, and it will place the window there. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind, that windows as well as doors, all right, like I said, there's some light fixtures, there's certain pieces of furniture that are considered hosted elements, all right, and they need to go into something or have something else there as a host for them, okay? And so you can go and place windows along your wall here, okay? Now I'll place a few of them, escape and back out of it, okay? Now with my modify arrow, I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. I'm going to select this window here, all right, because it's facing the opposite direction, all right? So let's say you've gone and you place this in here and you're like, oh, you know, this window is facing the wrong direction, I want to flip it. Okay, you don't need to delete it and replace it. Okay, what you can do is once you select it, if you'll notice you have the little arrows here, all right, you can click on the arrow and it will flip whatever side that window's on, okay? So that's a nice feature that they have. You'll see when we place the doors, the same goes for the doors and what side this swing is and everything like that, okay? But essentially for windows, you know, it's pretty simple for bringing them in here and dropping them into your walls, okay? So if you'd like, you can go through, add a couple more windows in here, all right? And go through and play with the settings in terms of the size and all of that stuff, okay? Again, making sure that if you change any properties in your type properties, that you make sure to duplicate it, okay? So aside from windows here, as we're going to talk about doors as well, all right, which pretty much fall into the same kind of process and workflow to place them as the windows do. All right, so if you go to the architecture tab and click on door, all right, as you can take a look here at the instance properties for them, okay? The type selector, again, you're probably only going to have one default type loaded in, all right? You can change that, right? Go into your edit type, look at your type properties, all right? So again, make sure that if you're going to change anything in here, you're going to want to duplicate the type, all right? So you can change, you know, the thickness of the door, the height of the door. You know, you have some options here for trim, all right, width. All right, you'll also notice that depending on which door you're in, or which door family or which window family you're in, you may have more or less options here for dimensions or materials or things like that, all right? The reason for that being is that because these are external files that get built as kind of family files and then loaded in, right, the amount of options you have here to adjust, right, really depends on how well this family was built. Okay, so where these are pretty basic windows and doors, you only have a few different options, all right? If you go online somewhere and, you know, you download, let's say, a Marvin window, all right, which I'm sure you can probably go online now and find Revit families for Marvin windows. Is, for example, if you select a Marvin window and you load this into Revit, you may have, you know, 50 different options here to choose from, right? Depending on the model type and all of that. You know, you might have trim thickness, you have muntin sizes, all of that kind of stuff you'll have to be able to choose through your window, all right? And again, that all kind of goes back to whoever built that Revit family, you know, how much, you know, adjustment did they build into it itself. So if you open up a door family or a window family and, you know, there's things that you're kind of saying, hey, you know what, I wish I could adjust that. Unfortunately, it's kind of limited to whoever built the family and how it was kind of put into Revit, okay? Obviously, we're going to talk about Revit families and how we can kind of adjust them and change them, all right? But that comes in a later class. For today, we're just kind of going to deal with, you know, the options that are there for us right now, okay? So again, the type properties of our doors. All right, we'll hit OK. And we're replacing our doors. These are going to be placed the same exact way as our windows. All right, so if you can go place it. All right, again, you can see your arrows here. So if you wanted to move the door one side to the other, you can use the arrows to flop it. All right, one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. All right, so you can easily do that with the arrows there. All right, you can also, when you place doors and windows, as you have the dimensions that kind of quickly pop up here. All right, so if you wanted to move that door, you know, if you select the door and you see the 10 feet here, if you wanted to move that, let's say 12 feet away from that, you know, you can go ahead and type in 12 and move that a little bit farther, all right? So it's kind of an easier way to move things away when these dimensions pop up like that, okay? But in terms of placing windows and doors, all right, that's pretty much it. You know, we're not going to get into, you know, the detail of, properties, because we've already done that with walls, and the same kind of things, go for the properties on your windows, doors as well, as they did with the walls, is the type properties and the instance properties. Okay. What we will do though is, let's say we have windows or doors that we want to load in. You want to load in something other than, this fixed window. You want to load in something other than this very basic, single flush door. All right. We can do that by, loading in from the family library within Revit. Okay. So let's say we wanted to load in a different type of door. Okay. If we select the door tool, right, and come over to the right here in the Modify tab, where one of the sections that's highlighted in green, okay, you'll see where it says Load Family. So if we click on Load Family, right, it should open up our box to be able to take a look at our family library. So because we're in Doors, if we scroll down here to where it says Doors, double click on Doors, all right, so you can see you have a number of different doors here. All right, you can go a little bit farther down into residential, commercial doors. Right, you'll see a bunch of different things here. Right, interior, exterior doors, things like that. Okay, so if we wanted to load in this one here, we can select it, hit open. Okay, depending on the family, you may need to specify which types you want to load in, because it may have a whole lot of them. Okay, you can hit OK. All right, if you wanted to select a number of them, you can kind of click and drag and select a bunch of them. All right, to load in, hit OK. All right, and that should be loading them in. And you'll see that now, in your type selector, right, for your doors, you'll have that new door type, or that new door family that you can select from. Okay, and you can now place these as well. Okay, so that's going to go for the same for your windows as well. Is you're going to want to go to the window tool, go to Load Family, all right, and select the window that you want to load in there. Okay, now when it comes to loading in families, is if you're loading in a door and you want to go and click on the door tool and you click on Load Family, all right, if you're going through the door tool, you have to make sure that you select a door family to load in. All right, so if you're going through the door tool and you click a window family to load in, all right, Revit's going to tell you that it's the wrong family type to load into that. Right, so if you're going to load a window, go through the window tool, all right, to load the family in. If you're going to load in a door, go through the door tool to load a door in. Okay. Alternately, if you're loading in families and you kind of just want generic family loading, okay, if you go to the Insert tab, all right, you'll notice that you have Load Family here. Okay, and so if you're having some sort of a problem with loading families in and it's telling you it's the wrong family type for the tool or anything like that, right, if you go to the Insert tab and click on Load Family here, right, this is kind of the generic family load. So you can go and select any of these families here and load them in. So it doesn't matter if it's a door, if it's a window, if it's the casework, anything like that. You should be able to load that in from this Insert tab. Okay, so if there's ever any problems with loading doors in through the door tool, come to the Insert tab and hit Load Family, and chances are that it'll fix it and go through just fine. Okay.